I've added a V8 Ford Interceptor to Fallout New Vegas's Mojave Wasteland, but you must first locate and assemble the vehicle from various parts before you get to drive it. It'll run on gasoline, which can be purchased from a couple of gas station vendors that I've added into the game. But you're not the only one patrolling the roads of the Nevada desert. Fiends will want to steal your precious fuel for use with their own vehicles. I've always been a massive fan of the Mad Max movies, and adding vehicular combat to Fallout New Vegas has always been a dream of mine. But that begs a few questions. How will the implementation of drivable vehicles change how the game is played? Is it even lore-friendly? Can we get them working without having to install the Frontier? In this video, we'll find out the answers to all of these questions and more. Most of us play Fallout for the same reason. We are in love with its post-apocalyptic world. Nothing beats stomping on a pack of raiders, looting their corpses, selling your finds to the nearest merchant for caps,
Thanks.
only to later exchange them for chips to gamble at a casino, get drunk, have sex with a hooker, and wake up the next morning to decide the fate of the wasteland. If that's not immersive, I don't know what is. And so, when we're putting together our lists of mods, we make sure that we preserve this universe that we've immersed ourselves into. And with adding functional motor vehicles into Fallout comes a series of concerns for a lot of us, but mainly they all boil down to make it make sense. Right? Because many believe that the lore wouldn't allow it, or that having cars would ruin the pace, balance, and exploration factor of the game. I'm going to address every one of these concerns throughout this video. And without further ado, let me start by telling you that Mad Max Mojave is a highly configurable mod. I've placed each of its features into separate plugins so that you could pick and choose what you want to add to your game. Let's start by taking a look at the core plugin. In its very basic form, Mad Max Mojave aims to seamlessly introduce drivable vehicles for the player in the Mojave. With this plugin, a handful of ridable bighorners were placed around the map in spots where it would make sense. And 3 motor vehicles were added: a delivery van, an old sedan, and the road Rampager. If you wish to naturally figure out how to get your hands behind the wheels of those cars, skip this section. This is your spoiler warning. As always, we'll begin our journey by stepping outside Doc Mitchell's house in Good Springs. It is here you will stumble upon your very first ridable bighorner. Be careful not to get attached to this creature, because no matter how much time you spend together, how many a times it saves your life, or how many great memories you share together, it'll become useless the moment you hear the roar from the engine of your first car. Okay, maybe not roar, but rather a meow. This is the sedan. It's been in rough shape ever since some powder gangers made their escape and ambushed its owner. So we're gonna have to fix it up ourselves. To successfully inspect the vehicle, we must first pass a skill check. Only then will we realize that the car was jury-rigged from the start. And we're gonna need to craft homemade replacement parts. But we lack that knowledge, so to unlock the recipes, we must first get our hands on the blueprints, which can be found on the corpse of its previous owner that's now being guarded by a powder ganger. So we're gonna have to think twice before approaching. After we obtain the blueprints note, we must first read it for clues about what ingredients we're looking for. For this vehicle specifically, we're gonna need a survival skill of 50 or above to be able to craft the homemade car parts. We head back to the car, gather up some more parts, and... You may be wondering, why would I want to drive this slow-ass piece of shit? And the answer is, this car is the slowest and not the toughest, but it's faster than running and has the lowest fuel consumption of any other vehicle. Let's drive this thing all the way to Prim, where we'll find our next car, the delivery van. You can obtain the delivery van parked in the garage at the Prim gas station in a multitude of ways. The first method is to finish the My Kind of Town quest and barter with Johnson Nash for the key. It'll cost you anywhere from approximately 500 to 4,000 caps depending on your barter skill. Second, you could also kill him and loot the key off his corpse. But you probably don't want to do that, so your third option is to pickpocket the key from his pants. And lastly, you can avoid any kind of interaction with Nash if you have a high enough lockpick skill to unlock the garage door yourself. That's a total of 4 approaches you could take to obtaining the delivery van. This is the most badass and best overall vehicle in the game, the Road Rampager, but it's also the hardest to gain access to. You see, this car is locked away in an abandoned garage right next to the RepCon headquarters. And the keys? Well, they're on the corpse of a familiar dead man at the pinnacle of Black Mountain. Even if you were somehow able to make your way past all the muties and jack the keys, you'll still need to find the V8 engine the car is missing. With this plugin, the only V8 you can find will be in possession of the Boomers. Why did I choose the Boomers? I chose this faction because they very much remind me of the crashed plane tribe from Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
I've been waiting a good 5 years for an outsider to come along and visit.
Just like the children from Beyond Thunderdome wait on the return of Captain Walker, who they'd thought would be Max to fly their crashed plane, the Boomers also await a prophesized outsider to show up at their doorstep and help them fix their bomber. But it's beyond just that. I don't think people realize how much Mad Max has inspired Fallout. Anyway, it's also because in the vanilla game, the Boomers give you nothing in return for your service. But now, after completing the quest, Mother Pearl will hand you a note thanking you and gifting the V8 to you. Back at the garage, you should first look for a specific note that allows you to put the car together, and then you must pass a repair or science skill check to install the engine and give up 6 jerry cans of fuel to get the car running. Finally, this plugin also adds some new miscellaneous items that you'll need for vehicle assembly like tires, rims, and acid batteries. I wanted to implement automobiles to New Vegas in a cohesive manner, so I couldn't just place cars in random locations for players to stumble upon, then drive for free. I wanted it to be earned, something that required an investment from the player. From what I've shown so far, you can see that it should be relatively difficult to get yourself a drivable vehicle. And even then, I made sure to balance their speed among other stats so that once you get to drive one, it wouldn't be overpowered. For example, the early vehicles aren't that fast or durable, so you can't drive past a group of raiders unscathed. Even if you somehow manage to flee, your car will have sustained a lot of damage. You'd have to heal it using a repair lance and some scrap metal, especially if it's so damaged that it starts leaking gasoline, which is an expensive resource in the wasteland at vendors and a rare find out in the desert wastes. But even more rare and more expensive are the vehicles. You'll only get one chance with each car I mentioned. If the Rampager gets blown up, that's it. No second chances, unless you use some of the other plugins that come with the mod, which allow you to purchase various vehicles, except the Rampager. But a complete implementation is not just about difficulty, resource management, and balance, but also about taking into account different character builds and giving players multiple ways to go about getting a car. I wanted there to be at least 2 different ways that you can acquire each vehicle. I just don't tell you about them in-game. I'd rather you figure them out yourselves. But seeing as this video is supposed to be a full showcase and guide for the mod, here's your spoiler warning. For example, you don't have to finish the Boomer's questline to get the V8 engine. You could just steal it, with a proper disguise or high enough sneak skill, along with a high repair skill or the presence of Raul in your party. Even when it comes to installing the V8, Raul can install it for you. No skill check required. I've already mentioned all 4 ways you could go about obtaining the delivery van, and as for the old sedan, you could get past the skill checks at the start using the books related to both repair and science. To a lot of you who want even more vehicles, I recommend you grab bonus cars. This mod adds the Vicky and Vance Ford Deluxe, a taxi cab, and a police patrol car. The problem is, the cars were just placed in locations across the map where you could just hop in and drive them for free. And that's not how we want to implement cars into our beloved New Vegas. So, I made an optional plugin that comes with Max Mojave that'll properly implement these cars. The taxi cab and cop car must be found and repaired with skill checks and parts. As for the Vicky and Vance V8 Deluxe, I wanted it to be special, so I had to make it obtainable in a unique way. Prim is another one of those places that reward you nothing. You help get rid of bandits, get nothing. You help bring back the law, get nothing. You save the casino from NCR deserters, get nothing again. But now, with a high enough luck stat and enough gambling at the Vicky and Vance casino, you'll get handed the keys to the Ford Deluxe as a reward from the casino to its biggest winner.
You're the luckiest player I've ever seen.
The moment you exit the building, the car will be moved from the museum display to the outside for you to drive. It seems the car is out of gas. All this talk about driving motor vehicles, and we forgot all about the fuel we need to drive them. So where do we get it from? The 3 remaining plugins from the mod will add 2 vendors with all vehicle-related items on sale, friendly cars that you'll encounter on the desert roads, and some hostile fiend vehicle encounters. First up, we have the Novak gas station plugin. This'll add a brand new, fully voiced gas station vendor in Novak. Meet Colin.
Hey there, what can I do you for?
A friendly and resourceful vendor who sells fuel, scrap, and a special item called the Repair Lance. This new tool is perfect for all your vehicle repair needs. But that's not all. This plugin also introduces non-hostile NPCs driving around the map. You'll see gunrunner vans and wastelander buggies cruising the roads, making drivable vehicles fit better in the game's world. These NPCs are neutral, so no need to worry about getting ambushed while you're out exploring. But you can ambush the gunrunner vans if they didn't already get ambushed by raiders to get your hands on some of their weapons supply. But if you prefer a vehicle-related vendor and nothing else, then Rudy's Autos is what you're looking for.
Welcome to Rudy's Autos and Parts. What can I do you for?
This plugin adds Rudy's shop from the Frontier to the Mojave. It's located inside the gas station right next to the RepCon headquarters. Here you can purchase vehicles, gas, upgrades, and parts. Next, let's talk about the Lootable Gasoline plugin. This one makes most vehicle wreckage you encounter in the game lootable. Now you can scavenge through abandoned cars, trucks, and golf carts to find miscellaneous items. Sometimes, you'll even come across jerry cans filled with fuel, which are essential for keeping your own vehicles running. This plugin also adds fuel supply caches throughout the Mojave. Look out for big fuel tank trucks scattered across the map. They're filled with precious fuel. And don't forget to check rest stops and gas stations, where you can often find jerry cans tucked away, just waiting to be found. This may be the most exciting aspect of Mad Max Mojave for a lot of you: hostile vehicle encounters. Initially, they won't be spawning for balance reasons, but once you install the machine gun turret upgrade on your road Rampager by purchasing it from Rudy's Autos, they will begin to appear along the desert roads. There are 50 spawn points scattered across the map, and I'm still working on balancing them and where they spawn, but everything should be relatively okay. I've tied them to the Fiends because I just thought the vehicles suited them best, and they are the most dominant force of bandits in the Mojave. Combating them is fun, but the real benefit comes from looting them for ammo, spare parts, and gasoline after blowing them up. Be quick though, and grab whatever you can before their hulks are destroyed along with the loot for good. Of course, with the addition of drivable vehicles, the way we play the game will change, mostly in a good way. Instead of fast traveling from one location to another, we can now drive all over the map along the desert roads. Some believe this would ruin the pace and exploration of the game, but that couldn't be further from the truth. If anything, it'll actually enhance those areas of the game. I think I speak for the majority of us when I say that we would all like to manually travel from place to place. The only way to do that though in the vanilla game is on foot, which is very slow, and we have better things to do with our time than stare at empty desert for half an hour before reaching our desired location. With a vehicle, we can manually travel faster without sacrificing the fun encounters and exploration opportunities that get taken away by choosing to fast travel. It's actually way more exciting and interesting too. On your way, you could run out of gas, and you'll be forced to travel on foot looking to scavenge fuel from the wreckage on the road. You'll get ambushed by raiders, forcing you to exit your car and use it as cover as you take them out. Your car may sustain heavy damage, making it risky to travel in it. You'd have to stop to make repairs before going forward. And if your concern is the pacing of the game and story, even without cars, you could head right for the strip straight out the gate. Think of vehicles like Power Armor from Fallout 4. They are convenient to travel with, but come at a cost. Instead, unlike in Fallout 4, which grants you Power Armor from the get-go, you'll actually have to earn the right to get behind the wheel in Mad Max Mojave. That depends on your definition of the term lore-friendly. When I say that, I don't mean lore-accurate. To me, for something to be lore-friendly, it has to be plausible within the established rules of the game's world and must maintain consistency with its atmosphere and tone. We can check the latter off the list because looking at those vehicles, at least to me, they do look like something that fits within Fallout's universe. It's the plausibility of the existence of fuel that's got most of us worried about whether or not the mod could be lore-friendly, but I believe it's very plausible. Let me show you why.
My life fades. My vision dims. All that remains are memories. I remember a time of chaos, shattered dreams, and this desolate wasteland. In the 21st century, the world was plunged into chaos as resources dwindled and nations fought over the last remnants of oil. The resource wars tore civilizations apart, leading to the Great War of 2077. In just 2 hours, the world was engulfed in nuclear fire, and humanity's greatest achievements were reduced to ash. Yet, humanity endured. In the ruins of the old world, survivors scavenged for what little remained. The once luxurious highways and towering refineries lay silent, their gasoline reserves long since drained. But necessity is the mother of invention, and the resourceful wastelanders found new ways to fuel their survival. The new California Republic, with its growing influence, turned to biofuels crafted from hardy desert plants. Across the Mojave, methane from decomposing waste and ethanol distilled from fermented crops became the lifeblood of small settlements. These alternative fuels powered the generators, vehicles, and even the occasional pre-war relic that roamed the cracked and broken roads. As you rise from the shallow grave, the sun scorching your back and the open road ahead, one truth remains unchanged. It's that gasoline never changes.
Or at least, that's how I would go about integrating fuel into the game's lore. I mean, think about it. There are highly intelligent and competent scientists and mechanics around, not to mention the amount of vaults from which educated people emerge into the wasteland. You've got factions with vertibirds, and the NCR is known to use cargo trucks for transportation of supplies and troops. It's not a far-fetched idea that you'd come across other drivers on the road, or some fuel while scavenging vehicles or gas stations, no matter what the source or method of production. For all I care, the source of fuel in the Mojave could come from Brahmin farmed by the NCR, as long as I get to drive my cars without having my immersion break. No, and it never will. I asked around about this and even took a look at a mod that supposedly separates the drivable vehicles framework from the frontier. Everyone told me that it would be near impossible to extract just the vehicles from the mod, and it's because the cars and their scripts are deeply rooted within the project. As for standalone cars, that mod removes many assets, scripts, and quests that I use in order to get Max Mojave to function properly. The only way we're getting standalone drivable vehicles is if a brand new cars mod drops on the Nexus, and when that happens, my mod Max Mojave will have run its course. But that doesn't bother me. I thoroughly enjoyed working on this project. I've learned so many things about modding and scripting specifically that now I have a much greater appreciation for the effort and talent that this game's modding scene has. And I'm giving full permission to anyone who'd want to take the mod and turn it into something else or whatever it is that they might want to do. I hope those of you who choose to install it are going to have as much fun playing it as I did creating it.
YouTube never changes. Smash like and subscribe.